one and all, because today we're talking about political cartoons. Oh, undo. I don't want to do that. Cancel. All right, so political cartoons. You're going to be doing a project when you first come back, and that's going to have to do with political cartoons. Today, I am going to go over like the do's, the don'ts, the what's, the whens of the political cartoons, and how to analyze them, because you will have, from this next test you're going to have, which is going to be probably this coming Friday, all the way up till the end of the semester, you are going to have political cartoon questions on every single assessment test. So you have to learn how to analyze them. So first, here's some rules. Establish context. That means, where is this taking place? When is this taking place? And who is involved when this is taking place? Study the words. Studying the words is vitally important because every word put on a political cartoon is there for a reason. So you have to make sure that when you are looking at a political cartoon that you acknowledge every word that you see. 3, analyze the images. Images matter. The size of the images, what the images are specifically doing, what the images have on them, all images matter. And we're going to talk about this as we decode some of these. Analyze rhetorical strategies. And I'm going to go through these strategies right now during this little hodgepodge, so then you have an idea what strategies I'm talking about. All right, let's go with established context. Context, all information that precedes or follows a specific image or argument. Look at everything around it. Where is it taking place? Who's it with? When is it? Notice publication date. When was this produced? That's the when aspect of context. Study the headlines. There are sometimes newspapers that are inside these political cartoons. Those newspapers will give you clues to the whens and the wheres that this is taking place. Seek to place the cartoon in the correct historical context in order to correctly understand the message. Understand when this takes place. What are we talking about? Are we talking about progressive era? Are we talking about World War I? Are we talking about women's rights? All that context matters. Study habits. So this is the first example right here of context and also just reading the political cartoon the way it needs to be. First of all, let's look at all the words. It says study habits. So we're referring to studying. And then we're going to look at 3 different people. And on their desk it says China, India, and USA. So it looks like they're showing the study habits of 3 different people in 3 different nations. The person that is in the China desk is looking at a book that says math. In the India desk, they have a book that says science. In the USA desk, it has somebody that has like a USA shirt. They have a backwards hat. They're blowing this thing of bubble gum. They're looking at, this is like old school, like they're like an MP3 player type of thing. They're listening to music. Their book is closed. So what is this telling us about the study habits of this particular group? They study well, but the U.S. is showing that they don't study well. So that's the context. It's a classroom is the context. The words are telling us what groups of people, what nations we're referring to. The study habits is what we're looking at. And then the acknowledgement of what this picture shows is that, according to this political cartoon, American students do not study as well as these other 2 groups of students. This right here is also a context. It's the school. And a lot of these are going to deal with school, so then you kind of can understand these concepts. You have a teacher at the front. She's saying back to school. So they're all coming back to school according to the message. And then you have these students here that are in the back, and they're holding up these books. One student is holding up a book. The other one is holding the book, and it says, psst, how do you turn this thing on? What is it referring to? It's referring to students' inability to understand how to use a textbook because they're so used to technology in the classroom. So this right here shows the context of the classroom. It shows the age group, your guys' age group. It shows that this student doesn't even know how to turn this on because it's not digital, because they're used to only digital. Let's go to the next thing. All words in a political cartoon matter. Every single word and syllable is going to matter. So you need to read them verbatim. Do not ignore the obvious. Okay, this says Climate Summit. And you have a person up here at the top of the lectern that is teaching about the Climate Summit. It says preserve the rainforest, sustainability, green jobs, livable cities, renewables, clean water, air, healthy children, etc., etc., etc. And you have somebody in the crowd that seems to be arguing with somebody right here. It says, what if it's a big hoax? What would we create better? And we create a better world for nothing. That's the joke. That's the comment. What if it's a hoax and we create a better world for nothing? Creating a better world is good enough by itself. This is satire. It's a joke at the idea of all these good things. If you're going to hoax it, it's still going to create good things. This right here, this actually was a couple years ago that they did this one. You have this dad sitting on his chair and he says, wow, and it says on the newspaper, pump prices plummet. This is when gas prices went down, okay? And he's like, oh, it's awesome. And then it shows like outside his home, a bubble says, now, if only we have someplace to go. And then on the sign here says, stay home COVID-19. One of the reasons why the gas prices went down a couple of years ago, it had nothing to do with policy or laws. It had to do with the fact that people weren't going anywhere. So that's one of the reasons why the gas prices went down. And it's this irony of, look at the gas prices are down. Where should we go? Oh, we can't go anywhere. And maybe it's a supply and demand thing. So here we go. Analyze the images. Images, everything about the sketch itself is part of the message. So let's look at some of these sketches. This is referring to COVID. So you have a teacher here who, welcome back students. And you have students that a common thing to give teachers is an apple back in the day. Don't do it now, but common thing back in the day was to give students or teachers an apple. So you have a student giving an apple, student giving an apple, student giving an apple, student giving an apple, but it doesn't look like an apple. It's the representation of COVID. As in now in schools, it's showing this idea that COVID is constantly around us, and that even when somebody does something nice like give you an apple, it is potentially something that could be harmful. Oops, I went way down to the bottom. I don't want to go all the way down to the bottom. Let's go back to the top. Let's go back to the top. Let's go back to the top. All right, this another one is back to school for COVID. You have a back to school sale for clothes, but they're all like hazmat suits. This is referring to this idea, context, talking about today's world. Where going back to school to get clothes is also going back to school to get stuff that's prepared for COVID. And it's exaggerating. You guys are not walking in here with hazmat suits, but it's referring to this idea that it's a new kind of world. Now let's analyze the rhetorical strategies, exaggerations, allusions, analogies, symbolism, caricature, stereotype. So you have this right here. This is like Donald Trump. He's saying huge to like his approval rating, but this approval rating is like in the 40s. It says huge for his electoral landslide, even though it was, not that huge. It was actually pretty close. Huge, and then it says tiny military budget, and it has this giant picture of a person that's significantly bigger than Donald Trump. And that right there is showing you the exaggeration of size. Size matters in these political cartoons. All right, sorry about the bells and everyone email me as I do this, by the way. Illusion, reference back to something commonly known information. I just told you about the apples. We commonly know that now because I told you about apples given to teachers, except this one is showing the COVID instead. Now, again, you already know this because I just told you about it. It's common knowledge. Analogy, comparison between two things, typically for purpose of explanation clarification. This one right here shows two parents. They are sitting and they're staring at a TV. Guns cause all this trouble. And then right behind them is a student that is on their video game system that are shouting, kill them, kill them, kill them all. They're ignoring what's behind them and only focusing what's in front of them, and it's showing the hypocrisy or just the ignorance of that. Symbolism, representation is something else. This represents the teachers and students, but they're represented as gerbils or guinea pigs, things that are used in science. And it says, welcome class, and this says COVID-19 subjects. In other words, this was last year that this came out, describing that this was going to be a whole new thing, putting kids in the classroom with the COVID thing, and we're kind of like testing this out, and we're kind of like the lab rats. Stereotype. This shows the donkey representing Democrats. This represents the elephant representing Republicans. And this showing the stereotypes. Donkeys, Democrats, they can't do anything, and Republicans won't do anything. They are showing the stereotypes of how people look at these two different parties. Okay, so let's get to some political cartoons. So this right here shows a woman trying to button up her shirt. It says national suffrage. It says the last few buttons are always the toughest. In other words, the last steps to give women the right to vote are always the toughest. And let's get going down. Let's keep going down. This right here has the progressive era. You have this giant man. This represents business, eating the children. Remember the progressive era, children had to work. It's showing you that in this cartoon, or this political cartoon. Let's go one more example. You have Prohibition Party, and they're chopping down a saloon that sells alcohol. and it says vote. In other words, vote for this idea of passing the 18th Amendment. Now it's your turn. For your homework today, you're going to look at these cartoons. I sent you in a PowerPoint these cartoons. You're going to answer them, these questions about these cartoons. You're going to email me the answers. What are they trying to make people afraid of? You have a man who's holding two babies, and a cat there looks kind of upset. He's really shocked. You have a woman who is going to vote. It says votes for women. It's making it look like she's the man now. She has the power now. Who is this trying? What are they trying to make people afraid of in this picture? What group of people should we be afraid of? What should we be afraid of if we let something happen? That's what you're going to answer there in your email. This next one. What is the political cartoon trying to say? It says women's rights. And then in the poster, or in the signs here, it says votes for women. And then all of a sudden something happens. A bunch of women leave. And it says women's rights still, but she's turned around. Now it says vote for men. What are they trying to say here? This political cartoon is trying to say something. Something changed. What changed? Look at that through your PowerPoint. Try to figure out what changed. This is World War I. How does this political cartoon show the Germans? We talked about this before. You have this specific image that how they're trying to refer to the Germans. I want you to tell me what that is based on the cartoon. Number 4, what is the cartoon trying to tell men about joining World War I? What should they keep in mind about joining World War I? You've seen this picture before. It's that guy sitting on the chair. His daughter's asking him, what did you do during the Great War? And he looks a little scared, like he doesn't want to say anything. Number 5, this has to do with progressive era. You have these very rich people up top, and something is going on below. It's like they're being held up by something. I want you to tell me what's going on in this political cartoon. Ooh, this is Teddy Roosevelt, and this is Taft. Taft is this sheep, and Teddy Roosevelt is the shepherd, if you will, Little Bo Peep. Tell me what this is talking about. This political cartoon is trying to say what about these two people? What is the stereotype here? We talked about this in the immigration unit. There's stereotype in a group of people. What is the stereotype? Number 8, what do the shadows represent? There are immigrants right here, or an immigrant coming into our dock. You have these men standing there in very wealthy attire, but their shadows look very specific. Tell me what those shadows represent. What is this political cartoon trying to say? We've seen this too. You have groups of people. This represents the Irish. This represents the Chinese. And then they're doing something to Uncle Sam, and then they keep doing something to Uncle Sam, then something else happens. I want you to tell me what this political cartoon is trying to say. Okay, this isn't kind of new, but it has to do with immigration. You have Uncle Sam here. You have this giant wall with these spikes on it that says literacy test. Then you have this group of immigrants that are coming in. It says land of the free and a sign back there. What does this literacy test represent for the immigrants? And that is it. You're going to answer those questions. You are going to send me those answers via email by the end of the hour. Look at the PowerPoints. The PowerPoints have all of those all of those pictures that you can look at. Use those to your advantage. You can watch this video a bunch of times. Get at it, kids.